Hello, everybody, and welcome to Case Manager Connections. I am Sam Coyote. I am your host. And today I have a wonderful guest who will be talking to us about public health and finance in low income neighborhoods. I have Gloria here with me today. She's a professional. She's worked in Baltimore City. She's worked with people in the community. She has years of experience in public health. So without me wasting time, because I know you guys don't want to hear from me, you're here to listen to Gloria. So Gloria, go ahead, introduce yourself.
All right, so hello everyone. It's a pleasure, an absolute pleasure to be here with you all. Please excuse my voice. It's been fighting me a bit this week, but I'm able to speak tonight, so I'm grateful for that. Yeah, so like I said, my name is Gloria. I'm recently married, so Gloria Marfo is my maiden name. Gloria Ankoma is my married name. And as Mr. Sam said, most of my background and experience is in the field of public health. I did a lot of work in global health communities when it comes to maternal and child health. I also did work in domestic communities, right, in Baltimore City, specifically focusing on young men of color and helping them through the trauma into their healing journeys. So it's just a little bit about me. As I said, I've recently married, and so I've been trying to figure out how to really solve this issue of public health. And I've started also in the field of finance because I realized that a lot of the underlying issues that we face, especially as people of color in the United States and around the world as a whole, has to do with financial illiteracy. And I believe that one of the ways that we can really make lasting change is to make ourselves financially literate as a community and as people as a whole so that we can move forward from there. So that's just a little bit about me. Thank you.
Wow, that was wonderful. I had the opportunity to actually train a lot of
Yeah.
your staff from Baltimore City Health Department. And as a public health, what are your job duties like daily? What is your mission? What do you do each day? And what type of clients do you serve? I mean, what type of clients do you serve in the community?
Yes. So in the field of public health, as many of you know, it is very broad. It is
Correct.
very vast.
Correct.
So I wouldn't say one day looks the same as the next. But generally, what we try to do is to solve population issues. So when you look at medicine versus public health, medicine works with the individual body and healing issues and ailments in the individual body. When you look at the field of public health, we look at the population as a whole. So we sit down and we look at what are the issues that whatever particular population we are working with. So in my case, I would say young men of color, right?
Mhm.
What are some of the issues that they are facing? And we work together with community members to solve those issues and come up with programming and resources to make available to the clients that we are working with so
Correct.
that they can work through whatever issues it is that we have discovered. In the
Okay.
field of finance, what
Okay.
that looks like is sitting down with individual families
Mhm.
and working through some of the individual issues that they are facing and applying concepts of financial literacy to be able to work them through so that they can get to whatever level of financial freedom it is that they're looking for.
Wow. So what are the type of problems mostly that you see with the clients that you serve in the community?
It's
I already
a
know what it is, but somebody out there wants to know.
Yeah, it's that there's just so much. There's so much. When you talk about, especially young men of color here in the United States,
Correct.
the issue is it just stems so deep that there isn't one single thing. It's a multifaceted issue.
Correct.
But just to name a few of them, in my experience working with these young men, there was always a lack of, a lack of. So in some cases, it was a lack of obviously a father figure in the home. There was a lack of, obviously, finances and financial support, resources. There was a lack of quality, excuse me to say, but quality educators and quality schools in their neighborhoods. There was a lack of, general love and support. And so what we found was that a lot of these young men were getting involved at very young ages in things that children should not really be.
And,
You know what I'm
and you're
saying?
right. With me coming from the foster care section of the foster care um, community, what I work with mostly teenagers.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, I can have a caseload of maybe 15 teenagers, both male and female, and one out of them has the aspirations to go to college.
Yeah.
The rest of them, some of them have been using drugs. Some of them, they don't have a good family support system because that's why they're in foster care. So they don't get to learn a lot from positive role models. So they learn some habits from some of their friends or some of their family members. And by the time they leave foster care, some of them are homeless. Some of them are addicted to drugs. Some of the young females have been trafficked. There's so much social problems with the young males and young females, especially in the community that we serve, which was in Baltimore City. So the question is, what type of programs did you guys implement at Baltimore City Health Department?
Yeah. So, like I said, with the young men that we served, there was a really huge sense of lack expressed by the young men themselves. Okay. And so one of the things that we stressed upon when we were doing, coming up with programming and things like that was working with the community centers in those various communities that we were in to identify, okay, what are some of the needs and how can we meet them? It was through working with these community centers that we discovered that the kids need support during the summertime, for example. During the summertime, there's no school. And so a lot of them don't have anything doing with their day. A lot of them got, lunch from school. And so now that school is out of session, a lot of them, that was their only meal for the day. So they didn't have any way to really have food every single day. And then in addition to that, like I said in the beginning, most of the young men complained that there was a lack of financial resources for them, like legal and safe resources for them to obtain money, right? So working with the community service providers that were already there, we came up with various programs. So two of the main ones were our self-community conversations. And so what that focused on was safety, emotions, loss, and plans for the future. And what we would do was that every week on maybe a Thursday evening, after the kids, after the young men would, vacate from school, we would have these sessions for them. And during the sessions, we would obviously feed them. But then what it was a group where they would be able to express some of the things that they were going through in the school that day, that week. And based on the theme for the week, whether we were talking about safety or we were talking about managing healthy ways to manage their emotions, or we were talking about healthy ways to cope with a lot of the losses that we're experiencing, or we were talking about making plans for the future and actually putting things in place to implement those plans. We would sit down with them for about 2 hours, have these conversations and discuss. And then, from there, they would go home and the next week we'd come back again, kind of pick up where we left off and see what has been done during the week. So that was one. And then the second program that we did was the Summer Youth Engagement Program. So with the Summer Youth Engagement Program, we worked with the community service providers to be able to provide some sort of like employment opportunity, not employment, but like mentorship opportunity that had a stipend attached.
Oh yeah. That definitely will bring them because they know there's a stipend attached to the program.
Exactly. So what we would do is that during that was usually from July or
Mhm.
from the middle of June all the
Correct.
way to the middle of August. So pretty much a span of the entire summer where we would have them, they would come over to the various community centers, some focused on cleaning the environment, cleaning and greening, planting and things like
Mhm.
that, the environment. Others focused on teaching the kids how to like teaching the young men how to cook and
Okay.
kind of also serve like the pantry and like give food and things like that. Others focused on coming to the health department to kind of see how things are run and supporting, whether it's, being present in some of the meetings or helping with, classes that we were hosting and things like that. So basically what we would do is try to expose them to different environments and kind of pique their interest on, something for them to do during the summertime. Other ones, we would send them to some schools for them to kind of take them on college tours and things like that, just to open up, the vision
And
and kind of,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying, and kind of help them see that, there's definitely more to life than what they are exposed to every day.
And
And
and here's the thing. I'm sorry to cut you off. I liked how you were able to explain how you took the kids on college tours, right?
yeah,
Because Baltimore, because Baltimore has lots of public health issues,
it
right?
does. It does.
A lot of kids are in foster care. Most people in a certain zip code don't leave their neighborhood.
Trust me, you are 1,000% correct.
Yes. And
Even to go to the next block.
yes, they are so familiar with West Baltimore, East Baltimore. So I had two foster care children in my car one day, and we went to Baltimore County, right?
Mm.
White Marsh. Are you familiar with White Marsh?
Yep.
So there's this particular road where you
Yep.
have the cows, the goats, and all that, farmland.
Yep.
And these two young girls are like, "Where are you taking us? Are we out of Maryland?" They couldn't believe they've never left
Yeah.
West Baltimore before.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think it's so important that we expose young kids to good things out there. Like
Yes.
not just you living, because some kids are living in vacant homes or
Yeah.
they're living in a house next to several vacant homes where
Yeah.
drug users are using drugs in the alley. There's trash. There's gunfire. There's murder right in front of them. So they
Right.
see a lot. So that's
Yes.
all some of them know. But
Mm-hmm.
taking them out of that environment open their eyes. Like when a lot of young men come to our building and they see other men in the building,
Mm-hmm.
they usually say, "Wow, you guys don't do much." And one day I had to tell one of my clients, I said, "Look, if you get a degree, you can sit down and do nothing just like me."
I don't know how true that is.
That's
You
not
gotta
true.
be
But
something.
I was being, because he was
Yeah.
angry and I
Yeah.
was just being sarcastic. Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
get your degree, you can definitely sit down and do the same thing I'm doing. And
Yeah.
that kid got his master's in social work.
I know that's right. That's awesome.
He got his master's in social
That's
work.
awesome.
At 20 years old, he was about to age out. Eventually, got into college, and they paid because he was in foster care. They paid for his college,
Wow.
his college tuition, and he was
Mm-hmm.
able to get his bachelor's and get his master's. He
That's
changed,
awesome. That's
So
awesome.
that's how I think exposing kids to good, positive things definitely can change their life.
Yeah.
Awesome,
It's
awesome.
It's so true. One of our, I mean, everything you said is true. Every single example that
Mhm,
you said is true. And I have multiple boys, or excuse me, young men
mhm.
who we worked with that live in vacant homes. We
Yeah,
had some that were like the building was condemned. The child was living in it with his
correct,
family.
correct.
Next door, some other kids, vacant homes. I
Mhm,
mean, like everything that you said is the truth. But
absolutely.
then, like you said, we also have some instances where, like one of our guys, he started coming to those classes, and eventually applied for school got accepted, and we supported him with getting financial aid and all those kind of things. And now he's on his way to get, his degree and things like that. And it's just, cases like that that kind of, fulfill you and let you know that, as much difficult, emotions and everything that come with this kind of work, it is so worth it when you realize that, little by little, you're sowing some seeds into these young men's lives. And even if you don't see the growth today, definitely at some point in the future, if you just love and support them unconditionally, they will make it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's
Wow.
awesome.
And I like to, to support them. So I'm going to transition into finances, because without finances, you really can't do much.
It's so true.
A lot of families, a lot of families, especially for generations and generations, a lot of families stay on government assistance, and that's all their kids see. Fine, government benefits are good for the senior citizens, maybe somebody with disabilities, but some families stay on government assistance, like housing, food stamps, cash assistance, and that's all the kids see. They don't see mama go to work. Most households don't have a family, especially in the Black community. So why do you think financial literacy is important in low income neighborhoods?
My goodness. Financial literacy is important in low income neighborhoods because honestly speaking, it is the driver of change.
Absolutely.
And it is just the reality. Most of the young men that we worked with, if you ask them why they were involved in this or why they were involved in that, 9 times out of 10, the reason was that they stayed is because I needed money, because my mom needed money, because my little brothers and sisters needed money to do this or to do that.
Yes.
It is a resounding theme. In addition to all that, when you look at the nature of the communities themselves, the vacant homes, the messed up roads, excuse me to say, but the not so great schools.
Yes.
When you look at all those things, you have to realize that the reason why they are all lacking is because they use taxes to fund almost all of that work. The housing, the roads, the schools, all of these things are funded through government taxes. And so if you're in a community where the tax base is extremely low, because most of the individuals there are not contributing for one reason or another, surely there is no way that the change is going to come. Correct. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Correct.
And if we do not find a way to increase the tax base, that is where the cycle just continues, because then the next family gets born and grows up in the same environment. You see what I'm saying? So financial literacy is the key, because when these kids get the money, or when their parents get the money, whatever the case is, however they got it, some of our boys, they got their, they got their first $1,000 stipend or something like that. And the next day, as in no wind blew over it, that money was gone.
Oh, it's funny. I had a kid who won a lead paint case. Back in, I know the history of back in the day, there was a lot of cases of lead paint.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids got paid out. So I had a client on my caseload that got paid out almost $20K.
Wow.
For lead paint. I mean, I think there was more, but after paying the lawyers and stuff like that. So he got $20K. So his grandmother let him hold it. Do you believe this young man decided to use that money to buy drugs, to flip it, to sell it on the streets, then got arrested?
I believe it.
Got arrested and lost the drugs, actually, he used all the money to buy drugs to sell. They lost all the drugs. And his grandmother was so upset, was like, you're supposed to save that money. It was my fault, but no, some of these kids are not taught financial literacy. We had a program called not Youth Works, Ready by
And
21. Ready by 21.
okay.
I know you're
Mm-hmm,
familiar with Ready by
mm-hmm,
21.
mm-hmm.
So they did a lot of life skills training,
Yes.
credit score, bank
Yep.
account, how to pay
Yep.
your rent. So
Mm-hmm.
these are the things that some parents, especially some parents don't teach their children. You
Yeah,
know,
because most parents don't know themselves.
most parents don't know themselves. So that's why this topic is so important because we have to teach these young kids financial literacy because so they don't grow, they don't grow up uh, to misuse their money or mess their credit up or all types of things. So what is your experience like working with? What type of programs did you guys offer, or what type of programs do you know that can help people in low income neighborhoods to with their finances?
So in terms of what we offered at the health department, um, that is what I kind of spoke on a little bit during the summertime, especially. So while we had a general curriculum, well, excuse me, while we did send the like pair the young men up with some of the community service providers,
Sure.
we also had a general curriculum, and in that curriculum, we did have a host of financial literacy classes that we would offer them, kind of going over the same concepts that you just expressed when it
Sure.
comes to saving, when it comes to the different types of banks that are out there, when it comes to managing, credit and all those kind of things. Um, but when it comes to programs that I can recommend, I would say that depending on which community you are in, you can do a quick search online, especially, or contact your local health department and ask them, reach out to them and ask them, what are some of the different service providers in my community? This is my zip code. What are some of the service providers in my community or in the surrounding environment that can support me? I want to get some financial literacy. I want to get some information, and they will be able to point in the right direction.
Oh, do you think most of the clients that you serve, do you think a good education will help them with financial literacy, like going to college, getting a good job, or a high school diploma is what most of your clients will usually stop at? Or, what do you think? Do you think people still need to go to college, or do you think um, they need to still learn financial literacy to move forward in life, even without a college degree?
Yeah. So let me tell you something. Going to college is not going to be what makes or breaks you in this life. Going to college
Right.
is good. To me, I see it more as icing on the cake, not the
Mhm.
actual cake itself.
Correct.
If you want to be financially literate, you do not need to go to college for that.
That's right.
And in fact, I started, from elementary school, went all the way through the whole system, graduated from college and everything. Yet most of what I've learned when it comes to financial literacy, in fact, I'll say about 1% of what I've learned has actually come from my college education, period.
Wow.
In my business, I've worked with a lot of CPAs, a lot of different financial advisors, and
Mhm.
almost every single one of them has said that. Even my MBA, I did a degree in finance in college. I didn't learn anything
Anything.
practical, because what they tend to teach is how to run corporations, but most of us are not running corporations. So
Correct.
that information is not useful to us in our daily lives. So
Mhm.
to any client or to any student or to any person listening to this, to this interview right now, no, you don't need to go to college before you can become financially literate. What you need to do is to know the right people.
Practical. Yeah.
Look, people around you are doing well. Sit
Mhm.
at their feet, mentorship, sit at their feet and ask the questions. How did you get to where you are? And from there, they'll be able to advise accordingly. There are also, like I said, resources out there,
Mhm.
legal, ethical, morally correct, that can sit down with you and explain these different concepts to you. right out of high school, right during high school. You do not need to go to college before you can become financially literate, because you have physicians who don't know their left from right when it comes
Mhm.
to finances. You understand what I'm saying?
And it's so important that you said that, because you really don't need, because most of us, we think going to college, right? We
Right.
go to college, we're going to get a good job. But most of us go to college, we get into debt,
Yeah.
right? And there's some folks that work at Walmart, they can work at Walmart for 20 years. They keep the debt down, they keep it low enough. They don't have credit cards, they don't have school debt, and they don't live beyond, and they have millions of dollars in their account.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
they only have a high school diploma.
Yeah.
I've seen stories like that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
for especially with people in um, low income neighborhoods,
Mhm.
I think financial literacy is important, because what I hear is a lot of times a lot of young kids think selling drugs is the only thing, doing
Mhm.
crime is the only thing, going to the government for benefits is the only thing they can get. They don't know that they can go to a trade school, like a
Mhm.
trade school, vocational school,
Mhm.
and get a certificate in plumbing,
Yep.
CDL, HVAC,
Yep.
and you can go into business for yourself
Yep.
and make more money than somebody that's actually at an office job.
Yep.
Because if you have a skill, right? If you have a certain skill, you don't need to look for a job.
Talk
You
about
can
it.
just set up a business and people will call you and you fix whatever they needs to be fixed and you get paid.
Yep.
So I think this types of conversations is needed, especially for a lot of youths,
For
men,
sure.
young males and young females too, because
Mhm.
as some young females in Baltimore, as soon as they have a baby, the following day, they're at social services trying to register for benefits. And I
Mhm.
have a friend who works in social services on the other side, and she tells me this all the time, that they will have a baby within a week. They're in the building requesting, funding. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes we have to teach a lot of young ones the skills they need to earn money, to live a better life. That it's not all the time that you have to run to the government, even though sometimes you might need it, or uh, let's say a short term plan. But most people, what I tend to see is a lot of folks who are able to go out there and do things for themselves, stay on these government benefits long term, where the
Yeah.
mother is on benefits, her daughter's on benefits, her granddaughter's on benefits, and nothing ever changes, and they're home all day,
Yeah.
so
So I.
good.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, it's okay. Go ahead.
No, no.
Okay. So I have so many things to say about, when it comes to government assistance, especially in low income communities and especially in communities of color. But what I'll say is that there's there are a lot of factors that influence a person's decision to, one, go out and apply for government assistance, and
Mhm.
then to remain on government assistance. Um, there If you are going to schools in a community where, I read an article recently, one of the schools that we actually work with at the health department in Baltimore, I'm not going to mention the school, but there was a student who was graduating from the school, had only attended like how many days of school in their entire 4 years at the high school.
Wow.
Woefully undereducated,
Correct.
yet they were going to graduate this child. And in fact, the child was able to progress from ninth grade to 10th grade,
Well,
11th grade,
11.
all the way up to 12th grade,
Hmm.
about to graduate, and had attended days worth of school in all the 4 years, right? So
and
now,
and they expect this particular kid to go out there to make
very
something
good,
out of himself, because
very good.
these kids, and I'm sorry to cut you off, this is a great conversation. these kids, when I worked in Baltimore City Detention Center. I was an investigator. These kids that you're talking about came in the building, and when I asked them specific questions, what is your social security number? Some didn't know. Oh, my grandmother know it. What's your let's say what's your religion? Some of these kids would say African American.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, so this is an issue that is actually going on right now in Baltimore, where half of the school is 0.99. That's their grade point average.
Yeah.
Half of the school is failing.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So I say all that to say, with a child growing up in an environment like that, what job can they get? What job will hire them? If I'm doing an interview, I'm having an interview with you and I ask you, what is your social? And at the age of 20 something, you tell me that your grandmother knows it, you do not know it. I ask you, what is your religion? And you tell me that your religion is that you're an African American. And you believe that to be the truth because you don't know what religion means.
Mhm.
How then, or what would I hire you to do? You see what I'm saying?
Correct.
And this is the environment that our young men and our young women are growing up in. So this is the level of intelligence, so to speak, that our young men and our young women are coming out of high school and going into the workforce with. So if life happens and the child or the young man or the young woman ends up getting pregnant, and they need money to take care of their children. You need money. This is America. Nothing is free.
Exactly.
Definitely the next step will be to go to government assistance to get some income.
Absolutely.
Now, what I'm saying is that, all right, the system has failed. True. From day one of elementary school till day whatever that you graduated high school, the system has failed because the system, there's no income even coming in to produce quality teachers or quality schools to come and teach these kids quality material so that they too can become quality citizens to contribute to the society overall, right?
Absolutely.
Not a problem. So now you've gone, life has happened and you need government assistance. Cool. The government is there to assist. Now that you have it, what is the next step?
Exactly.
Now that
that's what we have to start teaching.
That is where.
Absolutely. That now you have the government assistance is not a long-term plan. Now you have to start looking into other things in your life, that you can implement, that you can change. This types of benefits, one day the government can just say, you know what, we don't have any more money.
And if you look at the way the national debt is going,
yes, absolutely. And with COVID did two things, right? COVID helped a lot of folks save because a lot of people had money with the stimulus checks and people saved their money. Then there was others that lost their jobs.
Yeah.
That, they lost their jobs. They were waitress and they were cooks and stuff like that. They were doing Uber. A lot of people couldn't work and most of them are behind on their bills. Yeah. But this we in a society that the more you depend on the government, one day they can shut things down. Look what happened with the federal government when they had to shut down. Nobody could work. People that had good jobs were in line trying to get food from the pantry.
Yep. Just this past weekend, excuse me to cut you off, but just this past weekend, I was traveling from one place to another. I was back in Baltimore and there was a line of cars. I asked my sisters, what are these lines? What are these cars here for? They said, oh, it's a food pantry. They're giving out food. You should see. There were Mercedes-Benz. There were Audis. There were cars that wealthy people can afford in that line, trying to go and get food. Why? Because just like you said, COVID has come to teach us a lot of things. Yeah. And one of the things that it has taught us is that if you have a job, somebody's employing you, your life is in somebody else's hands.
Exactly. It could be your job, it can be the government. And having a skill for yourself, and especially for people in low income neighborhoods, it's important. It's very
And it's
important, and
not only is it important, but it's possible.
possible. Absolutely.
You don't need, like people say, go to college. College is great, like we said earlier, but you don't need it to thrive in this country.
Correct.
Like Mr. Sam, like you said just now, there are trade schools, there are different programs out there where just develop the skill and start somewhere. When you start earning income from that skill, if you want to further yourself and go to college and get a degree and do this and do that, you can do that. But just because you couldn't make it to college, that doesn't mean that your life is over.
Over, exactly.
Somebody said one day that it's not YOLO. It's not that you only have one life to live. It's that you only have one day to die.
Yes.
Do you understand that?
I understand.
So as long as you have breath the next morning, you can wake up. You can always start again. You can always try again.
Yeah.
Always.
Wow, this is an awesome conversation. If we continue, we'll probably spend another 2 hours at this conversation. So do you have any closing statements to people out there, any advice that you would like to put out there? Also, I would like you to put out your website, but I'll also put the website in the chat. I mean, in the description.
Sure. So my advice or my closing statement or whatever the case may be is that in this country, especially this country, the United States of America that we live in, if you want to succeed, if you want yourself, your husband, your wife, your children, and your generations to come to actually succeed, you need to be financially literate. It flows through every single facet of society. Public health stands on finances. You need money to be able to support communities. You need money for communities to be able to support themselves. If somebody is giving you money forevermore, you will not succeed, right? Somebody said, if you give me a fish, I'll have fish for a day. If you teach me how to fish, I'll have fish for a lifetime. You can give somebody money and they'll have money for today. But if you teach them how money works and how to grow their money, they will have money for a lifetime. So it is equally important as we're speaking with our young men, as we're speaking with our young women, even with our older men and our older women, those who have gone to college, those who haven't. Financial literacy is a must, period, if you want to succeed in this country. So we can help. People are out there.
That was an awesome closing. That was very presidential. So guys, you've got it. I will put her contact information in the description, her website. So if you need information on financial literacy, you have a group that you would like to get trained, Gloria is definitely the person to reach. So thank you for joining us today, and I appreciate you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and also hit the notification, comment below. If you'd like to be on one of our podcasts, please send us an email or just comment below your name and what you do professionally. But I want to thank everybody and have a wonderful day. Take care.